All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you I haven't met before, I'm Miranda. I'm a certified professional dog trainer and one of the founders of Every Dog Behavior and Training. We are a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to providing inclusive and accessible dog training to the Austin community. And so one of our goals is to be able to provide these awesome webinars with local trainers, something that anyone in the community can watch and learn from. So without further ado, today our lovely trainer is Kim Roche of Kim the Dog Trainer. And so I'm going to switch it over to her so that she can share her screen. But Kim, if you want to give yourself an introduction.
Sure. My name is Kim Roche, and I'm a certified dog behavior consultant with the IAABC. And I've been working with dogs for about 20 years now. And my specialty is behavior problems. So I see a lot of aggression and a lot of separation anxiety. And I love working with puppies because I would rather see you for a couple of weeks when you are a very new puppy owner than have to tackle some really tough behavior problems later on. So puppies are really a passion of mine. And today in this webinar, we're really going to I'm going to share some of the things that I've learned over 20 years that maybe I didn't learn in books or necessarily from other trainers. It's just some advice that I have for you that I use when I am working with puppies in my own house. So without any further ado, I'm going to share my screen. We are going to talk about puppy mouthing first, because that is something I get a lot of questions on. And it's one of the primary reasons that people bring puppies to me. So there is some good news and some bad news about puppy mouthing. And it's that puppy mouthing, like a lot of the less desirable behavior that we see in puppies, is a developmental phase. So if your puppy is on track in their development, you are going to see some mouthing. So the old thinking was, and you'll still hear this from people, the old thinking was that puppy mouthing was really an aberrant behavior. It was a behavior problem. And I've even heard people say that puppies who mouth grow up to be dogs who bite. And the good news is that really isn't true. But my suspicion is that some of the things that new puppy owners do to curb puppy biting actually can cause aggression later on in life. So some of the things I see that not only don't work to quell puppy biting, but may backfire are punishment. So I see a lot of squirt guns. I see people holding their puppies' mouths shut, or I've even had somebody bite their puppy back when their puppy bit. And really all we need to do is kind of get through that stage. And the way I approach a lot of undesirable behaviors, especially when they're puppy behaviors, is I work around the problem. So I don't just deal with the issue in the moment. I ask why my puppy is doing that. What else can they do? How can I help my puppy make the right choices? And really, how can I mitigate things and make things more pleasant for me while my puppy is in this developmental stage? So there are so many reasons that puppies bite. The first one is, like us, they're just exploring the world. So children put a lot of things in their mouths, and so do puppies. So they're really, testing some boundaries and getting information. So how hard can I bite the other puppies in my litter without hurting them? And also, how hard can I bite people without hurting them? And finally, how much biting is acceptable? And of course, the ultimate answer to that question is none. For adult dogs, in our culture, we don't consider any sort of mouthing or biting acceptable for adult dogs, even if it's play biting. So puppyhood is a time when our puppies are learning how to control themselves, how to control their jaws, and really how their bodies work. And biting's also communication. So you'll see some puppy biting that's pretty affectionate. And we've all had a sleepy puppy kind of on our laps who starts gnawing on us a little bit. Then we have puppies who are frustrated. So they may be overstimulated. They may be trying to communicate something and it's not getting through to us. They may want to play with another puppy, but they're on leash and it comes out as more mouthing. And our puppy's excitement level is one of those things that we want to be able to teach them how to control themselves, not just in the moment when they have our hand in our mouth, but also really when we're training in other capacities, when we are playing with them other times. So we're going to talk a little bit about modulating our puppies' excitement levels, how to help them do that, and how to reward them for doing it themselves. And of course, finally, one of the last reasons that puppies bite is because it's fun. You know, it's how they play. So sometimes the behavior that we don't like is just misdirected play behavior, and we can really, really easily turn that into something that we like a whole lot better. Okay, so what can we do about puppy biting? So I like to be really proactive. So biting is never an accident for me. It's a teachable moment. So puppies really do explore the world with their mouths. They're going to bite something. We just don't want it to be our hands or our shoes or our flowy dress or our chin. So before I even really start interacting with a puppy, I want to think about what kind of toys they like. And every puppy's different, but there are a couple that are surefire winners. So there are some puppies who do really well with chew bones. So at most good pet supply stores, you can get something called a Benabone, which is a semi-edible, very hard Nylabone style chew. Those tend to be really popular. Nylabone also makes some, and most puppies love stuffed toys. And nowadays you can get some pretty durable ones. So at my house, with puppies, stuffed toys are always interactive. So they're not in the toy box on the floor and they're not scattered about the house. They are really just waiting, you know, maybe on top of the fridge or on a special shelf for me to take them down and interact with the puppy. So anytime I'm interacting with a puppy who's still going through that mouthing and bite inhibition phase, I'm going to start every interaction with a toy. So they may still choose to put my hand in their mouth, but that's okay. You know, at least I give them the choice to do the thing that I would prefer. So if they get a little bit mouthy, you can just disengage a little bit. So that might look as simple as briefly pulling your hand back and going back. and going back to play with them. If they keep making that mistake, or you see that their excitement level is going up instead of down, there are a couple of other things that we can do. Maybe we just need to change our behavior. So for example, puppies can be very cuddly when it's puppy cuddle time, but one of the things that people do that kind of gets them in trouble is they try to cuddle with puppies who are not in cuddle mode. So I have a German Shepherd puppy at my house right now who is so snuggly at night and wants belly rubs. But if you try to cuddle with him at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, it's going to be alligator teeth all the way. So it's really, really fine to not always pet your puppy. When you're playing with them, gauge. So if they sort of lean into the petting, that it's petting time. If they get more and more overstimulated, overexcited, snappy, when you start petting them, we know that, it's time to do something else. So it might be time to do some training. It might be time to do some training. It might be time for nap time. So one of the things that I don't feel like puppy owners get told enough is puppies sleep a lot. They sleep so much. So, some puppies will sleep 18 or 20 hours a day at first. So if you are not giving your puppy little naps, you're going to have more tantrum-like behavior. So that's puppies who are overtired, overstimulated, who need some downtime. And one of the things that I see a lot of people read on the internet, and I'm not sure where this phrase came from, because I've never seen anything to back it up, is never, well, the sentence is never use the crate as punishment. And what people take it to mean is if your puppy's doing something that you don't like, or they're misbehaving, you can't put them in the crate. So that leads to people who have puppies who can't calm themselves down, and people who have to stay in the room with a puppy who's really acting up. So of course, we should never put our puppies in the kennel angrily. It should always be a good place. But I really like to get into the habit of putting my puppy in the crate, not just when I leave, or not just overnight, but for a little bit of a nap time. And the easiest way you can do that is have some things on hand that your puppy loves to chew on. For me, that's frozen Kongs. I always have some in my freezer, and we'll touch on that a little bit more in a minute. But it's really important to have a place where you can put your puppy down for a nap. So for some puppies, that may be as simple as me putting them on one side of the baby gate with a nice bed to lie on, while I'm on the other side of the baby gate, reading a book or something so they can calm down a little bit. So nap time is important. And just like babies, puppies really need that extra rest. So if you keep getting the same mouthing, and it's really not ever changing, ask yourself, and maybe even keep a log, what's happening before my puppy starts being mouthy? What happens during, and what happens after? And seeing patterns can really help. So let's touch on Zoomies a little bit. So Zoomies are something, if you haven't heard of it, you probably, at least if you've raised a puppy, you know what they are. The scientific term for it is frapping, and that is an acronym for frenetic random activity period. It can happen at any time during the day, but it tends to happen more at dusk. So right around 7:30 or 8 p.m. So we're getting on that time. You know, some people call it the witching hour. A lot of puppies they kind of go bonkers. And as they get a little older, that behavior decreases. But you look at those puppies' googly eyes. So when your puppy's in frap mode, you'll see crazy eyes. You might see ears back. You might see repetitive running patterns. So that's like doing donuts around the couch or figure eights on the lawn. And what I find is what we do during our puppy's Zoomie time today has a big effect on how they are with us tomorrow. So one thing I sometimes see people trying to do is play with their puppy when they have Zoomies, or try to reason them out of it and calm them down. So that leads to a lot more biting. So if we try to play with a puppy who's in Zoomie mode, I like to say they're not going to play with us as friends, they're going to play with us as toys. So that's where you get a lot of the grab the pant leg with your teeth and run away, grab the pant leg with your teeth and run away. Or you get games of chase, or you get games of tug that actually wind up with the puppy getting your hand instead. So there are a couple of things that you can do with a puppy with the Zoomies. My favorite one is really to just let them run it out. So a lot of the time, if I'm just very hands off and maybe against behind a baby gate, or ideally even if they want to, I might just watch them from the kitchen window as they zoom around the backyard. Just let them run it out, and you'll find that after they're done with that, they'll be a little more sleepy. So it's hands off during Zoomies time. And how to prevent more Zoomies in the future, and also, you know, how to decrease the mouthing a little bit more. So what I have found to be quite true is the more exercise your puppy gets mentally, the less intense the Zoomie period is going to be that evening. And also, the worst mouthing happens when puppies are overexcited. So I'm a really, really big proponent of teaching puppies how to be calm. So this is a concept that puppies can learn. And if you look closely in the background of this photo, you'll see that we have a little visitor. So that is my cat, Henry. So just to kind of prove to you, you know, how fun and inviting calmness training can be. My cat, almost every time I do it with puppies, my cat joins in. So calmness isn't really something you can force. It is definitely something that we can encourage. So these two, these puppies, Blue in this photo was about 12 and a half weeks, and Dingo is about 5 months. They were learning a little bit of a variation on mat training. So one of the things I teach puppies a lot is stationing. You know, just go to a thing and be on it, and good things will happen to you. So these guys are just chilling out on their beds, and every once in a while, they are getting some treats, or they're getting a little bit of pets. For Henry, he's getting a little bit of his favorite dried fish. And I really believe that dogs and puppies tend to do more of the things that they do. So puppies who work for us, puppies who kind of learn that learning is really fun, they do more of it. So I actually have to put these beds up after I'm done training. Otherwise, these guys will go back to them. So if you are interested in learning more about this sort of mat or boundary training, I recommend looking for Nan Arthur's mat relaxation handout, which you can Google. Or you can look for Suzanne Clothier's really real relaxation program. And these guys actually both are champion mouthers and chewers, or at least they were before they grew up a little bit, and just having some chill out time helped them immensely. And here's Blue again. And this is an example of, working around the problem and being proactive rather than reactive, and kind of getting ready for good behavior before a problem can even start. So in my house, I probably have 12 or 15 of these Kong toys rattling around. They really are magic. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I did with Blue specifically, because he wasn't a huge fan. He wasn't a huge fan of Kongs at first, but he really has gone on to love them. So at first, I just had some dry food in it that he'd roll around, then some wet food to lick out. And now his mom is giving him 2 or 3 frozen Kongs a day. And it's his dry food mixed with maybe a tablespoon of yogurt or a couple of tablespoons of wet food, and just frozen in there. So at least before COVID, most of my friends who have dogs would keep a Kong or 2 frozen in their freezer for when I came over, because they knew I wouldn't necessarily want to have their dogs jumping in my lap after a long day of dog training. So, and I also do too. So anytime I have a house guest, I pull a Kong out of the freezer. If I want my puppy to hang out and still be with me while we eat dinner, but not be underneath the table begging us for scraps, I will give them a Kong. And also, every frozen Kong that I give a puppy, it's 20 or 30 minutes where 2 things are happening. One of them is they're completely engrossed. So I can read my book, or I can answer some emails in peace. And the other thing is they are getting some chew time in. So every 20 or 30 minutes that they're working on a Kong is 20 or 30 minutes that they won't be chewing on my shoes or my hands. So if you don't have a Kong yet, I recommend buying at least one. And for most pet owners, I really say, go ahead and buy a few. They're a little expensive at $12 or $13 a piece, but they're pretty magical once you get into a system of stuffing them and handing them out at opportune moments. Okay, and let's get on to socialization. So socialization is another way that we can prevent a lot of problems and promote a puppy who's really fun and easy to be with. So we don't need to control or dominate a dog who can be in the situation and make good choices themselves. And early socialization is one of the ways to do that. So here we have a Labrador named Lucy, who's hanging out with the great kids at Palm Elementary School in Southeast Austin. And you can see she's not completely losing it, even though these kids are really fun and really nice. So if you have a puppy, one of the things that people will tell you, and you'll read it a lot on the internet, and it will scare you a little bit, is the socialization window closes at 16 weeks. And that's not entirely true. So at 16 weeks, a critical period passes. So if your puppy has not met any people before 16 weeks, and really more like before 12 weeks, and I mean no people or just one person, they really are never going to be able to adjust to living amongst a lot of people in society. But I will say you don't have to introduce your puppy to 1,000 people in that first 8 to 16 week window. And also that critical period passes, but that does not mean that socialization ends. Socialization is a lifetime process. So it's not just letting your puppy see or interact with people for a moment. The really, really healthy socialization that I love to give puppies is long experiences with people. So it's great to see construction workers from afar and mark that with a yes and give your puppy a treat. And it's great for people to see your puppy for 30 seconds. But when you are in the socialization process with your pet dog, with your puppy, you're not just teaching your puppy that these people and these other animals and these things are safe. You're also teaching them, what are they about? So here we have Blue again, and Blue is meeting with Boots for the first time. So one thing that you'll see in these two pictures, one commonality, is Blue's not interacting with Boots, and Lucy is not interacting with the kids. She's with them, but both of these puppies are paying attention to me. So working with and around other people and dogs is, I think, just as important as brief meetings. So on this day, Boots and Blue got to spend a full hour with each other. So they had a couple of periods of, racing around the yard and playing tug of war and just relaxing with each other. But they also got a couple of training sessions in, and they also got the chance to be tired. And that's actually really important. So it's not just, socialization is more than, just letting your puppy sniff random dogs on the street for 3 seconds. It's really about meeting and becoming friends with several people, meeting and becoming friends with several dogs. And that takes repeated visits. So if you have the chance to do that, a play date and then maybe a play date the next week, And it also means spending enough time with this new person or this new dog, or for example, if you want your puppy to be good with cats, a new cat or anything, spending enough time with the target that your puppy becomes a little bored. So I don't want my puppy to be super crazy excited when they see people. And I don't want them to be super crazy excited when they see other dogs. I want them to be like, oh, cool. I see them. I'm not afraid of them. I've seen them before. And, you know, live and let live. So a lot of the friendly dogs that I see who are reactive on leash or reactive at the door. And what I mean by that is they're barking and lunging at other dogs. And you'll hear their owner say, oh, he's friendly. He just is like that when the leash is on. A lot of the time, dogs are doing that not because they're afraid, but because they're overexcited and frustrated that they can't meet the other puppy or the other person across the street. So we want to kind of teach them, you know, puppies and people, they're nice and they're safe, but they're maybe not the most exciting thing in the world. And that's why I really also, unless my puppy has separation anxiety or there's a special situation, I generally don't take my puppy, even after they've had shots, to the dog park. And I'm very cautious about daycare before the age of 9 months, if at all, because I don't want my puppy learning that every dog that they see is going to chase them at 20 or 30 miles an hour. Okay, so this again is a little more socialization. So this time Blue is meeting with my little neighbor boy, Carlos, who is a champion puppy socializer. So it's so important for your puppy to meet kids. If you don't know your neighbors yet, inviting them to kind of step into your yard is a great idea. And one tip I have for people who are trying to socialize their puppies in this pandemic is a long line. So this is something I do quite a bit. So I want to keep my social distance from other people, but I also want the puppies I'm working with, the puppies I'm socializing, to be able to say hi to folks. So in my gear bag, I always have a 20-foot leash. So that way, if I am, for example, at the soup peddler waiting for my soup, and the people who are waiting in line with me want to see my puppy, I can just let out some of the long line so my puppy can go to them. And another thing that is really great about having long lines for socialization is if I have a puppy who's a little bit shy, who might want to come close to a person, but then come back, come close to a person, and then come back. With a long line, what is great is I can actually give my puppy all that space. So again, if I'm counting on random meetings with strangers on the street and their dogs on a 6-foot leash, I'm never going to be able to teach my puppy how to navigate things, how to kind of back off if they're a little intimidated, and how to get closer if they are a little bit curious. So another huge tip I have for people who are trying to socialize their puppies during COVID is if you have friends who are willing to do this and your puppy is reasonably house trained, or your friends are really, really nice, and you trust these people, and they either don't have a dog at all, or they have a well-behaved dog who loves puppies and does not go to dog parks, and is current on all their shots, let your puppy go for a sleepover. Again, what that does, it really bathes them in interaction with other people. So we really want to teach our dogs not just that people are safe, but what people are about. So if the only interaction our puppies ever have with people is strangers going, "Oh my gosh, he's so cute," and letting them jump all over them, they're going to grow up to be dogs who get overexcited and also maybe a little conflicted about meeting other people. So it's cute when our puppies jump up on people when they are 7 or 8 weeks. But if our puppies get into that pattern, unfortunately, they are going to have the experience of having people react a little more negatively, either fearfully or angrily, when our 5-month-old goofball jumps up on them. Okay, so that is, that's kind of the end of my presentation. And I think let's see if anybody has any questions for me, and we'll do some chats.
Awesome. So we do have some questions for you.
Okay,
great. One of them is from Mallory. We're bringing home our 8-week-old puppy this weekend and would love to hear if you have any tips for socialization during these times of social distancing. I know you gave a couple, but if there's anything else that Mallory might want to know.
You know, my best advice for you really is, even before your puppy comes home, go to Trader Joe's and buy some wine, or buy some ice cream that you can give to people as a thank you gift for letting you visit with your puppy. So I do a lot of socially distanced backyard visits. And I actually think that with these quarantines, we do have a little bit more of an opportunity for mindful socialization, because we're not just taking them willy-nilly down South Congress on a Saturday and letting our puppies get mobbed. We're kind of asking ourselves, who should my puppy meet? So definitely curate the people that your puppy meets. And just, if you can corral 6 or 7 friends into letting you visit them twice, that is an amazing experience. And the other thing that I will remind you is socialization doesn't necessarily mean interaction. There's a whole lot of people that I want my puppy to see, but who either don't want to interact with my puppy, or I don't necessarily want or need them to interact with my puppy. So for example, if there is a construction worker, painting a billboard, I don't need that person to put down their tools and take off their work gloves and come over and pet my puppy or give them a treat. I might just say, awesome, look at that person putting up a billboard, and then give my puppy a treat from afar. So that's sort of, you see something that your puppy needs to get used to. And it could be a firefighter. It could be a kid on a skateboard. It could be your letter carrier, who maybe doesn't like dogs so much because they've been bitten. So you can let your puppy see that person, and just awesome, like have a happy affect, give some treats, throw a little party, and walk on.
Awesome. So our next question is from Rose. When our puppy does paws up on the side table and we say down, he then sits and I treat him for sitting and making another choice. can we be sure that he's not starting to think that he's being rewarded for jumping up and then sitting?
Right. Okay. So very clever. Yeah. So you kind of get it that it sounds like your puppy is forming a loop. And sometimes people will think that their puppies are being manipulative, but they just are learning cause and effect. So they may actually be starting to learn that if they put their paws up on the coffee table, they're going to initiate a training session with you. So the good news is it sounds like your puppy loves to train. The better solution might be to interrupt the puppy, and then after they've been interrupted, ask for something else. And the way I interrupt puppies, my favorite way to do it is just to be like, hey, pup, come on, and call them into another room. Because I want to put a little bit of distance in between the moment that we interrupt and the moment something else good happens. If I have to, I may teach the touch cue. And you can find some really good YouTube videos on how to teach touch. And I use that as a behavior interrupter too. So paws up on the table. I'll ask my puppy to touch. And then if your puppy is starting to initiate training sessions with you, there's nothing wrong with that. I would start teaching your puppy the concept of manding, which is essentially teaching your puppy a sign that they can use to tell you that they want something. So I would say every time your puppy spontaneously sits, just ask yourself, what does the puppy want? Does she want to start training? Does she need to go out? Does she want to play? So there's nothing wrong with initiating an interaction with you. Just make sure it's something that you don't mind.
Awesome. Another question from Rose. I would love if you could discuss not having unrealistic expectations or expecting them to get things super fast.
Oh my gosh, another great question. Yeah, and that can be frustrating. But one thing that I tell my clients, and I tell myself sometimes when I'm working with puppies, is there are probably things in your refrigerator that are okay to eat still that are older than your puppy. So I definitely have some frozen kale in my freezer that is more than 8 weeks old. So your puppy has only been on this planet for a very short time. Their brain is developing at an amazing rate. And as they mature, they're going to go through stages where they are going to be more and more capable of doing what we want. But I think a lot of the time we want our puppies to act like fully trained dogs, and they're not. So setting your expectations differently. And I think for myself, a lot of the time with very young puppies under the age of 5 months, I am less likely to ask myself, what do I want my puppy to do? And more, what concept do I want my puppy to learn? Maybe the concept of pay attention to me, or the concept of settle down. So the 3 things that I think I would start on would be teaching your puppy to follow you, teaching your puppy how to focus, and teaching your puppy how to settle down. And once they've mastered those, sit and down and come when called and healing are going to be so much easier.
Awesome. So from Catherine, our puppy's biggest issue is excessive barking. I'm trying not to reinforce her to bark at me to get treats, so I'm trying to ignore or redirect her, but I still think she thinks barking will get her treats. Would love more tips on how to get her out of that habit. Also not sure how long I should let it go and ignore before I do something.
Yeah, so I don't love ignoring puppies who are barking. So barking is either a sign that something's really off, like a puppy who is barking in fear, or it can also be a self-perpetuating behavior. So just like puppy mouthing and chewing on stuff, one reason that puppies bark is because it's fun. It's really fun. So if I ignore my puppy and they bark for 15 minutes, you know, they're doing a thing. They're having their own activity, and it's one I really don't like. So again, I'm just like with Rose's question, interrupt and redirect is my mantra. So with barking, I am generally going to interrupt as passively as possible. So if a puppy like demand barks at me, I'm going to act as though they've said something very rude to me at a party, and I'm just going to kind of walk away from them. And of course they're puppies, so they're going to follow me. But if I take 10 or 15 steps and my puppy follows me, they're kind of going to forget what they were doing before. And then I have the chance to ask them to sit or play with them a little bit. So again, the concept of manding, which is simply teaching our puppies that they can ask for things. So one thing I think isn't taught enough in the dog training world is that it's okay for puppies and dogs to want things and to ask us for what they need. So I'm not a huge proponent of the old nothing in life is free or dominance thinking, where I have to have control over my puppy and everything good has to come from me because they worked for it. Sometimes I'm going to let my puppy ask for it. And coming up to me and sitting is my basic one, but I may choose a couple of other behaviors. So I may, for my dog example, some of the ways that she can signal that she wants something is by going to her bed and kind of looking at me expectantly, coming and sitting, or lying down. So I'm human, I'm busy. Sometimes my puppy's not going to get what they want every time they sit. So when we don't get what we want, we escalate. If I have a couple of behaviors that might pay off for my puppy, they're going to escalate into the behaviors that might pay off. So if my frustrated puppy goes from sitting to lying down as hard as they can, and it's really funny when puppies do that because they're just kind of staring at you and waiting for you to notice them. That's so much better than barking, escalating to barking and pawing, escalating to stealing a sock and running around, or whatever else your puppy may do to get your attention.
Awesome. So Danny asks, I recently had an older puppy join our family. She's already been Velcroing to us and being destructive when we're gone, which we've been trying to do in increasing increments. What can I remember to do for separation anxiety?
So I think I would say, first off, that's something I think is always best to consult a professional trainer on. I specialize in separation anxiety, and one of the things I see is that almost everybody tries their hardest. They try really hard to work through separation anxiety, but it's actually a fairly nuanced problem. So a lot of the time, we'll try to leave our puppy alone for 15 minutes and then 20 minutes and then 25 minutes. But if they're not comfortable at 15 and we go up to 20 and then we go up to 30, we're just going to make things worse. So you really need to find a baseline where your puppy is comfortable being alone. And sometimes with the dogs that I work with, that baseline is like 3 to 5 seconds. So A professional dog trainer who's experienced in separation anxiety should be able to help you. You also might want to speak to your vet.
Awesome. And that is all of our questions, unless we have anybody else who wants to type something in here. So as a reminder, thank you so much to Kim from Kim the Dog Trainer for doing this session. We have, in a couple of weeks, we have a session about kids and dogs that's going to be led by Jen Burns of Conscious Dog Training. And then we've got another couple. One is the importance of puppy socialization and sort of what to do during that critical socialization period, which is going to be from Diana of Hearts and Paws. And then we're also having a special with Debbie Martin, who works with Dr. Ken Martin, the vet behaviorist here. And she's going to be talking about everyday solutions for a fear-free pet. So we've got lots of webinars coming up. Feel free to sign up if you haven't yet. Again, they're all free. They'll all be online. They're all on Tuesday or Wednesday evenings. And a couple of other housekeeping notes. We are on social media, as well as Kim is on Instagram, right?
Yes.
Yes, Kim's on Instagram. We are on Instagram and Facebook. If you liked things from today, feel free to reach out to us. We're offering free initial consults, and you're also always welcome to book a consult with Kim, especially if you know someone who's having some serious separation anxiety problems or who's looking for some puppy boarding and things like that. So that's another great option for you. And if you liked what you heard today, and if you've worked with us, please feel free to send us a review on Google or Facebook. We would love that. Again, we're a nonprofit, so our biggest thing right now is trying to let people know that we're here and that we're offering lots of free fun stuff for people. So thank you guys so much for being here. I will put this up online and I will get the link sent out to you, and it'll be open for anybody to watch. It's not just for people who signed up originally or anything like that. So thank you again to Kim for doing this. We really appreciate you. And I'm going to reclaim the host here, and I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Thanks you guys so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.